Hi, I'm Leandro Facchinetti, and let's write some code together, shall we? What we have on the menu today is to continue our JSFX library that will allow you to write JSFX that look awesome and that will be easier to build, hopefully, in the future. I mean, we started the library and we worked on it for 1 hour, so humble beginnings. So currently, this is what the library looks like. We have a demonstration JSFX to show what the library does, and this is what it does. It gives you an error. And that's because we renamed some variables and functions, and we didn't rename the use in the demonstration effect. So let's do that. In particular, the changes had to do with underscore. So I think that now the thing has like 2 underscores in these 2 positions. Is that all? No. In line 9, there is also another color. Is that all? Yes, that is all. So now at least the thing is working again. Great. I guess with this we finished the last episode, right? So what's up next? We have a list of things to do here, and I actually thought of more things, but I know that we need the border radius thing, and our goal today, should have mentioned that. Our goal today is to do a demonstration page for the colors. In effect, we are modeling the colors after Tailwind. We are borrowing a lot from Tailwind, the colors, the spacing, and everything. But we also want to borrow this screen. So this looks great. It helps you pick colors, and it shows some of the spacing, some of the rounded corners in the rectangles, which is something that we wrote ourselves last time. So yeah, so I want to do a screen like this. And in fact, that reminds me that I think there is a bug in the implementation of the rounded rectangle. So to demonstrate this bug, I'm going to try to write something on the screen, or maybe just have another rectangle on the screen. No, I think I will write something on the screen. To write something on the screen, I forget how to do that. I remember that the name is like draw string or something like that. Yes, that. So I'm going to draw a string. Which parameters do I need to pass? Just the string is enough. So this is the string right after I draw a rectangle. And I don't know if you noticed, but the text just flashes through the screen. That doesn't seem correct. But if I use so this is the implementation of rounded rectangles with that are filled in. So this, the purple thing. And the red thing is just the rounded rectangles that come with REAPER, and they are, I think, going to do the right thing. No? Still flashing across the screen. Okay. Same behavior, I suppose. So maybe that's not the best way to demonstrate this. How about I just draw a line? And it's funny how it just flashes across the screen, the hellos go away. And not even that is showing the problem that I think exists. So maybe the problem does not exist? I don't know. I guess the thing that I'm trying to get at, maybe if I comment out my part of the code, that will work as expected. Not even that, no. So the thing that I had in mind is that there are these two variables, the JSFX X and Y, and they correspond to where the cursor currently is. So you can imagine that the graphical user interface is, you start with a cursor on the top left, and then you write something on the screen, and then you draw a rectangle, and all those things update the cursor position. So when you draw a rectangle, your cursor is at the bottom right of the rectangle that you drew. Supposedly, that's what was supposed to happen, but it isn't. So there is that. Yeah, maybe you can try the rectangle that, but I guess it's supposed to be the same as this one, right? Maybe I'm missing just the anti-aliasing stuff. No, not even then. So go figure. But I think that we need to update this, right? Let's see. Yeah, it doesn't talk about JSFX X and Y in this situation, so maybe it doesn't update anything. Oh, let's bring back our JSFX draw string. Hey, Bo. The effect here has your name on it. And you are saying on the chat something that I cannot seem to read because my browser doesn't want to scroll horizontally. Don't you just hate horizontal scrolls? They're the worst. So Bo says, hey, Leandro, watching you on my TV while I'm doing other stuff. Great. I watch this. I sometimes watch my own stream after the fact, of course, just to see if the audio quality is nice, if the video quality is nice, and I think that it looks very nice on the TV. So Bo asks, what's the plan with this library? How much goody stuff are you going to produce? Well, my initial plan is to have something that helps you draw good-looking user interfaces on the screen. So a design system that comes with colors and spacing and little widgets like rounded corners that fill in, that sort of thing. Then from there, have components like that draw a curve. You can imagine in a compressor there will be the response curve. So you can draw that more easily using a component and drawing the frequency spectrum. That sort of thing that you would expect an audio effect to need. Then I'm also planning on bringing some digital signal processing algorithms, so convolution with real numbers, because I think that could be fun. So some of these things I'm going to sort of like re-implement from scratch because I want to learn how they work and I want to experiment. Some of them may be useful. And you can imagine to have like delay lines and RMS computation, maybe compute other more esoteric things like the what is it called, the loudness units, so LUFS, and loudness range, and I forget the name of this thing. It's like the crease factor, the peak factor. I forget. It's like the ratio between the peaks and the average. So yeah, I have big ambitions for this thing, and I'm going to start slow. Oh, I am also planning on bringing filters, so the RBJ cookbook stuff, and some other flavors of digital filters as well. So that sort of thing, that is the idea. So eventually I will visit all the plugins I ever did. And in some cases, I'm going to update the user interface. In some cases, I'm going to add a user interface. Some of my effects don't have any user interface. It's just a bunch of sliders. I want to have a user interface to help the user understand what the sliders do, the effect that they will have on the audio. And then I have new effects that I want to build, maybe a compressor that I can build with you. So that sort of thing. And you're saying that's exactly what I need. Being able to render stuff like response curves and audio curves. Yeah, that's what is on the plan. But we are starting with very little. We just have like some colors. And it seems like the JSFX variables need to be reset in the beginning. So that's what's up. But it also seems that drawing rounded rectangles don't affect JSFX at all, JSFX X and Y. So it does not affect that cursor. Now, because this function does not affect the cursor, I will say that this function does not affect the cursor either. At least the two will be consistent. The only difference between the two should be that one is filled and the other isn't. And I guess that this has a good name while this has a short name. See what I did there? One has a good name and the other has a short name. And I guess that the strings were flying through the screen because JSFX X and Y are not updated at the end of a cycle. So I was writing hello, which updates the pointer, and then I was writing bow, which updates the pointer, and then I was writing hello on the next frame, and then they traveled to the right. So that's what was up. Probably, I suppose. And when drawing some things like lines, you have two variants in which one takes in account JSFX X and Y and the other does not. You give the two coordinates explicitly, but I think that there are some things like draw a string that you have no option. You have to update JSFX X and Y. So yeah, it is what it is. So there is actually no bug in this implementation. It works exactly the same as this one. Yikes, has not been a good day for me. Okay, so to be able to do a screen like this, I need the spacing stuff to be there. So let's work on spaces. We already have border radius, we already have colors, and I think that this comment actually belongs at the top because it applies to the whole library, or at least the design system. So I'll say that this is the design system, and this applies to the whole design system. Then we have the rounded border radius, we have colors, and then we have some auxiliary drawing functions. But what we do not have is spacing, so let's do that next. And I think it comes before border radius. And I will visit this link, which is my own library for doing CSS. It's my design system based, heavily based on Tailwind. And let's look for space. Here is the spacing section. So it's just a spacing scale so that you don't have to think, do I need 4 or 5 pixels here? No, you have a set of distances of spacing that you pick from. And it is a generous scale. I have designed plenty of things and I never needed to, well, in 3 or 4 situations I had to come up with my own spacing for some very specific reasons. But in most cases, this scale is nice, and this is what it looks like. These are the options you have on the scale. So here are the options. Of course, this is CSS. So we have to transform this into JSFX. And I'm going to start with the simple stuff, which is to rename this. So in our library, everything starts with L underscore. It's sort of a namespace to prevent clashing with other libraries. And then we have some dashes. And the dashes, well, in many cases, there are only 2 of them. So we can say underscore underscore. But in some cases, there are 3 of them to represent negative numbers. So I'm going to put 1 extra underscore for them. And then everywhere where we see a column, it should be an equals sign. Like so. And finally, the RAM stuff, we are going to write a little function to help us translate this. I was doing the border radius by hand because there were only a few of them. So if you watch my previous stream, you see me doing this part. And I calculated the pixels by hand because there were only a few of them. And now there are plenty of them. So I am going to write a little helper script for this. But there are a few special cases that I want to treat by hand. So, for instance, this is -1 pixel. This is 0 pixels. This is 1 pixel. And then we also have the halves. So let me search for -5. And in all those cases, I will replace the dash with an underscore. And then all that is left is the RAM stuff. So I will write here an auxiliary function. I will write this in JavaScript, and I will have some JSFX, and then I will replace. Let me go to JavaScript mode. I will replace all occurrences. The G stands for global, so all occurrences of a bunch of digits. Maybe dots in the middle as well. And then RAM. That's what I'm looking for. So I'm looking for the RAM stuff. And I want to replace using a function. I'm going to compute with that. So I think that what this function is going to receive is just the match. And this is a regular expression, by the way. It's like Lua patterns for those who know Lua, but I'm writing this in JavaScript, so it has even more power. And I guess I can put parentheses around the number. That's the part that I really care about. And the parentheses will make this a capture. So I will have access to this like this. It will be a variable that I can use. So I create a function that I turn that into a number, and then RAMs are just 16 pixels. 1 RAM is 16 pixels, and I want the output to be in pixels. So if I just do this multiplication, I think that this may work. I don't know. Let's see. We can copy 1 line, and then we can execute this. Oh, I even have a parse error, so isn't that something? Where is the parsing error? Near the close parens. Not sure I agree that there is a parsing error here. Yeah, not even Prettier agrees that there is a parsing error. Oh, that's silly. I did not run node. So this was executing on the command line. Okay. That makes more sense. So let's see. Minus 24 times 16 is 384. And here we have 296. No, 264. Oh man, I'm not having a great day. So what is up with that? Oh, the minus sign. No, that does not make a difference. So what is up with that? Let's console log the RAM. I bet that is my issue. It is just the number 4. Well, first of all, I see a mistake here in the regular expression. It should be 1 or more of digits and dots. So maybe that will help. That did help, yes. Okay. So that was my mistake. I don't need to console log anymore. And then I get the 384. So double checking 24 times 16 is 384. So there you go. This is a script that will transform RAMs into pixels. And when I say that one RAM is 16 pixels, that's just the default. The browser comes with that. By default, one RAM is 16 pixels, but the user can change that. And there is nothing like that in JSFX. So in JSFX, we are constrained to using pixels, and we'll have to compute everything based on pixels. And there is very little help if you want to be able to rescale stuff as a user. So the developer of the plugin has to come up with a strategy for resizing stuff if that's something that is desirable. And I don't think that we'll have any helpers for that. I don't know. We may, but I don't know. So just for documentation purposes, I guess I will put an example of how to use this. And then I'll document that what comes out is the line that came out. And of course, this is commented out. This is just some helper code that we are writing to do the transformation for us. It's not part of the code that executes for reals. So it's just a comment. And I think that this will come in handy in many other occasions. The cool thing is that I'm doing all this work up front, but once this is over, it's not like someone is going to come up with a new space. You know what I mean? It's fixed, and it will be good for everyone forever. You have my word. That's annoying. How about we add to this script real quick console log. And I will, of course, do that on the version that is going to be executed. And there we have it. That is our lovely little spacing situation. And it's the last time we will ever have to do this. Let's eyeball the thing to see if there is any mistake that we can catch. No, it seems good. Alrighty. So now let's use this in the demonstration effect. Let me go back to the page that I'm trying to reproduce, and yeah, let's go to a fun color like teal, and let's try to do this section. So I think that I am going to do exactly like this. So 5 columns, 2 rows, and then I will have a rounded rectangle, some text to indicate the number of the color, and then I will also give you the hexadecimal. Maybe not. I mean, I don't think that the hexadecimal is going to help you in any way when designing using JSFX. And this is mostly for demonstration, and adding this would be annoying in the code, so I'll not do it. But we need to pick a size for the screen. I am not going to make this responsive in any way. I'm not going to react to scale changes. Yeah, this will be a fixed design. I'm trying to simplify this as much as possible. So let's go to REAPER and start interacting with this now that we can. So now there is nothing on the screen. Now let's write a rectangle, and I will use my rounded rectangle. And then we need to give some padding on the top and left. So the X and Y coordinates will be something like L space. Oh, look at this. REAPER is auto-completing from the library. Awesome. It wasn't doing that last time I was working on this. I don't think it does that for the function. See, it does not do that for the function, but it does that for the variables. Ah, that is super useful. I love this. So let's put 4 of space on the left. Well, I guess this is going to be a long line. So I resized the window. So this is my Y coordinate. And then I also have to give a width and a height. So let's say that the width is something like 8 spaces. The height, let's say that it's 4 spaces. And the radius, let's say that we are going to go with border radius. I want to say like extra large. We'll see how that looks. And of course, I need to be in the right color. So we are doing teal. And let's do teal 500 because it's going to stand out more on the page. Okay, that does not look like a rounded rectangle. So maybe there is an issue with our implementation of this. Let's try the JSFX round rect. And the cool thing about the way I designed my function is that it's interchangeable. So yeah, this looks about right. And the border radius extra large is not doing me any favors here. So let's try a different border radius. Base. That is more like it. So we'll go with base, but yeah, there is an issue with our implementation of the rounded rectangle. Let's see what that is all about. So it seems like some of the circles are overflowing. Maybe this has to do with like half a pixel sort of situation because this is sort of small. What happens if we make it bigger? If we go to like 12, the issue remains. What if we make it taller? The issue remains. But it was working. So what's that about? What if we change the position of the thing just for good measure? The issue remains. All right. Let me go back to the size that I think I want. Yeah, this seems to be a good, reasonable size. And the border radius is nice as well. So yeah, let's dive into that function once again. So what could be going wrong here? Well, we changed this radius to account for big radius, big radi, I think. So what happens if I save this and full compile reset? Is that the problem? Doesn't seem to be. Well, let's just draw one of the circles. This is the top left circle. And that's the one that is correct. And then we can see the spots where we are missing the other 3 circles that will make up the rounded corners. So let's draw them one by one and see. So this is the top right, and it's too much to the right, I think. So maybe this has to do with like anti-aliasing stuff. What if I turn it off? Oh, this is filling. But what if I turn off anti-aliasing? That doesn't help. That does not help, does it? I mean, I can still see a little bump. Yeah, and I think that anti-aliasing should be on. It just looks better that way, so. My x coordinate is wrong. That is what's up. Should be 1 pixel less than it is. See, now it's working. That is a weird predicament. But let's apply the same concept to the other circles. And I think that they were all protruding to the outside. So in all cases, I think I want to subtract 1. But why is that necessary, and why wasn't that necessary before? I mean, it looks perfect now. But it is a weird concept. I think it has to do with like divisions and half pixels and whatnot. And I guess maybe the issue has always been there. It's just that I was drawing a rounded rectangle filled in, and then I was drawing a rounded rectangle without filling it in because I wanted to see if I had the right shape. But maybe I had the wrong shape and it was off by 1, but the border was masking that. Yeah, I think that I had that issue. I always had the issue. But in any case, that solves the issue, so I'll take it. Okay, so that is one of them, and let's make it bigger, right? They have something that is way bigger, so let's make it bigger. The spacing on the top left, I'll take it. I accept that. It's a good space. But this can be wider, and it can be taller, and it can be even wider. It can be like 14, can be like 18. 18 doesn't exist. It can be like 16. Now we are talking. Now you can really see the color for what it is. Now, one thing about JSFX is that the background is by default black, which is the same as like the text editor in Reaper. And that's all fine and good, but if you don't touch your settings in Reaper, then the timeline and everything is dark. But this interface is light. And in fact, there is a setting for you to change this. And in macOS, I changed that and I thought it looked terrible. So I don't like how the JSFX doesn't blend well with the rest of the interface, or at least with this part of the interface to be more specific. So I think that what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that the whole background is white to begin with, off-white, of course, not pure white. The whole background is off-white to begin with. And I wonder if I have to like draw a rectangle for this, or if there is some way for me to just say I want the background to be a certain color. Let's skim through these functions to see if there is something here. The blitz stuff is just for images, so that's not that. This is to transform the bitmap on the page. Ah, that's interesting. You can set the cursor. Oh, I thought that this was to set the position of the cursor, but no, it's to change to different kinds of cursors, like a little hand maybe. Fun stuff. Okay, so here it is. JSFX clear. If set to a value greater than -1, this will reset. This will result in the frame buffer being cleared to that color. The color for this one is packed RGB, and the default is black. The issue with this thing is that in our design system we had colors, and we set the colors using JSFX RGB. So we could have a variable for all the colors in this weird mode as well. But I wonder if this is common or not. Let's see. We can search the page for packed, and it seems like no, the only place where they represent colors this way is in this JSFX clear. I mean, look at the, for instance, JSFX R. How do they find that? It's between 0 and 1. It's only JSFX clear that has this packed representation. And I suppose I could just say to users, instead of using JSFX clear, it represents colors in a weird way, so just draw a rectangle. But drawing a rectangle feels janky, and it may not be good for performance. I mean, this is going to run 30 frames per second. So maybe I will have, and so there I see two solutions. I can either have a variable for every color that uses this packed RGB representation, not the end of the world. Alternatively, I can have a converter. So I think that's what I'm going to do. So yeah, but let's skim over the rest of this because it's almost at the end anyway. So there is a destination for different frame buffers. This is line height. Oh, do not modify this variable. So it seems like we cannot have different line heights. Then, okay, so there is this retina situation that we'll need to look into, and then there is some mouse manipulation stuff. So check this out. Let's say that I want my background color to be TL50. So I can call TL50, and that will update the variables RGB, the JSFX R, JSFX B, and so forth. So I can come here to JSFX clear, and I can assign JSFX R. I'll just copy this code. And this way I have the same set of functions to change colors, then I can transform this. So red is JSFX R, green is JSFX G, and blue is JSFX B. And then it becomes yellow. Oh, that's because my values are represented between 0 and 1. And that means I need to multiply all of them by 255, I think. right? It seems like this representation wants values between 0 and 255, while I have them as things between 0 and 1. So let's see. Yeah, this sounds more like a TL50 for me. So that is the function that I want to have. I will go back to the library and I will have... Maybe I will have... So here's something. I can have like a JSFX clear function that will do the thing for me. So I'll have a function called L background color, and you don't pass any parameters to this. This function is just going to do this. So maybe I'll call this set background color, and it calls JSFX clear with our crazy mathematical function thing. And I do want my spaces before and after my operators. Thank you, sir. And since I am doing that, I'll make it pretty. Let's review what we have. Yeah, we have some semicolons here, and that doesn't seem right. What's up with that? I think I copy and pasted too much. R, G, and B multiplied by 20 to 55 multiplied by these numbers that came from the REAPER website. Let's see. Speaking of backgrounds, Bo says. Okay. What about backgrounds, Bo? Right, so the library function is here. It is nice now that it's such a short formula. I think it sits well in a single line. And let's think if this is the name that I want to give to this set background color. I think so. I think that's what we are gonna go with. So you define a color and then you say set background color. And that doesn't work. Oh, I forgot the semicolon. There you go. So Bo says, window sizes for JS plugins seem rather erratic. Sometimes it's the size that is in the code, sometimes it's not. Yeah, I don't know too much about how that is managed. What I do know is that when you're in the JSFX block, you can pass a parameter, and we'll say something like 800 by 400. And that is the size that you request to REAPER. So when you bring this effect in, it will try to respect this size. But the user can always resize, or the screen may not even be big enough for that. So as you can see, now I'm way below 800 by 400. So that's the story of what is supposed to happen. Now, what really happens, I don't really know. Yeah, but it seems like I just dropped the effect here on the track, and it is 800 by 400, I think. And I can measure. Yeah, it is 800 by 400. So that's all I know about this. So yeah, let's finish this screen. We'll put everything that we want to have on the screen, and then we'll say, okay, the screen size will be something for our effect. And Bo says that he remembers Arya mentioning the same issue. Yeah, I don't know where the issue comes from, and I don't know how to fix it. I know very little. The thing that I do know is that this is just a suggestion. REAPER may not give you a screen of this size. And then the job of your plugin is to either react to that. So you will be able to, you can say what is the size of the screen. It's JSFX-W and JSFX age. These are the current width and height of the UI frame buffer. So you can say, you can measure the screen size on your JSFX, and you can adapt to that in your programming. In this effect that we are doing right now, it's just a demonstration thing. I'm not going to worry about this. So I will not worry about keeping everything on the screen and shuffling things around. On my Automixer, I do that. So if you want to watch my video in which I do a code review of the Automixer, you'll see me calculating stuff based on the screen size, and everything reflows when you resize the screen. But for the better part of like 20 plus years of people using digital effects, the interfaces, most situations are rigid. I think the BST2s cannot even have responsive interfaces. So I guess people are kind of used to that. And in our effects, we will try to be responsive because VSTs and VST3s and everything, they exist, right? So, and in VST3s, you can resize things. So we'll try to do that as well, but not in this plugin, not to begin with anyway. Trying to keep the thing as simple as I can. Okay, so let's pick a real background color that we actually like. So let's go to our grays and maybe start with warm. So that seems to match the UI in Reaper kind of well. What if we go to 100? Then it's matching even better. And with 200, then it's slightly darker, but it's somewhere in between. And then let's go to like, instead of warm, let's go to medium. And instead of medium, let's go to cool. And instead of cool, let's go to blue. Yeah, I think that my favorite is warm. And I think I'm gonna go with 50. So it stands out from the page. Or maybe I will go with, so check this out. I will go with 100. Or maybe even 200. Yeah. Yeah, that. I will go with 200. But I will on top of it. So this is like the background. It's almost fading into this color. And I could pick this exact color. And then I would have something that blends absolutely super well. But my plan is to have a border in here with rounded corners inside. And this is going to serve two purposes. First, it is a rounded corner, and I love rounded corners. But second, and more importantly, it will delimit the plugin. So if you don't see a space at the bottom, then you have some hint that you don't see the full interface. So you resize the screen. So that's of course not a solution for the problem that you brought up, Bo, but it is a workaround, I think. Yeah, let's try this. Let's see what it looks like. And I'm going to do the exact thing. So I don't think that this color is going to be consistent in every operating system, and I think that people can just customize this, but it doesn't hurt for me to have that actual color for the thing to just completely blend into the background. So let's get a color picker. And it's 233. That's the color. It's a true gray. It's almost that, but it's not quite. So let's have another color in our library of colors. And we'll have, right in the beginning, we'll have function L color Reaper gray. And this is maybe macOS specific, maybe not the best idea, but it is what it is. So that was 233 divided by 255. That's this value. Oh, can you please let me copy that? Thank you. And it does not blend. Not perfectly anyway. What's that about? Let's do the process again. Did I make a mistake in the middle? 233. And it's the same, right? When I move the cursor around, it's 233. And this is 230. Heyo, what's that? Let's do it like this. 233 divided by 255. Is it divided by 256? No. But wait a second. Why is it yellow now? No, hang in there. Why does it become yellow when I divide by 256? It is still a number between 0 and 1. It's just slightly darker, I think. It becomes yellow. What the hell? Let's have some debug variables. And then we have debug RGB, and they are literally the same value. And then I use them in this context here. So maybe the problem is that I'm multiplying by 255, but that shouldn't be a problem, right? Okay, now we got this. So I should have been multiplying by 256 this whole time. I have an option. Either I divide by 255 and I multiply by 255, or I go with 256. So let's go to the documentation and see what's that about. Yeah, it's from 0 to 255. So I should be doing 255 in all situations. And because of the weird RGB packing stuff, that wasn't working, okay? That's why it became yellow. Yeah, and I don't see any difference when I do a full compile reset here. So it's not exactly the same color, but it's almost, and that's the best we're gonna get. And Bo is asking, how does Reaper render its graphics? It's not something weird to save CPU, or GPU rather. Yeah, 255 is the max RGB number. Yes, I agree. And how does Reaper render its graphics? I don't know if it's done something weird to save CPU. I really don't know how it does graphics. Yeah. I suppose it's something on the GPU. Right, because of all the primitives that come with GFX like Bleach and whatnot. But I don't know. I won't pretend to be knowledgeable about this. I'm not. I don't know. Okay, so we have a Reaper Gray. And that's all we added to this file. And it is so silly for me to do this division because it's going to run. Well, first of all, it's silly for me to leave the debug variables, but it's silly for me to do this division because it is going to run 30 times a second, and I'm just doing mathematics here that I could have pre-computed, right? So I'm going to pre-compute this thing. 233 divided by 255. Not here. I'll do it here. And I will grab the value from here. Why? Because I want to do the mathematics exactly in the way that Reaper will do the mathematics. And then I am in this silly situation where I'm copying numbers around. But then can I trust the calculator? Let's see if it would have given me the same result. No, it ends with a 2. So 913 7 2 5 4 9 0, and then it truncates. So this calculator truncates. Well, this one is giving me more precision. So it's smart for me to do the thing that I did. though it looks silly, but it's smart to do it this way. So 913725490199608. Okay, that is our number. And as soon as I save this and rerun that, see the same color. So it almost blends into the background. And that's the best we're going to get. So our plugins are going to look great. What else did we change? So we changed this color to be the Reaper Gray. Okay, so Bo says, it might not be entirely like a browser or something from Adobe, but it's just a theory. Caucus is very keen on slimming the running of Reaper. I wouldn't be surprised if they're throttling the graphics to do so. Yeah, for one thing, it's not running at 60 frames per second. As far as I can tell, it's running at 30 frames per second, so there is that already. But there may be other things at play as well. And all of these divisions and multiplications, they lose some precision, so yeah, it is what it is. We are doing 230 instead of 233. That's fine. I don't worry about it. I will not worry about it. Oh, and I'm calling it Reaper Gray, but everything else is like gray something. So I'll call this, in fact, I will change this to Gray Reaper. This is my special little color. What's up next? Well, we have the spaces, we have the colors. Let's do a background. For that, I will use a rounded rectangle. And then I will set the background color that I actually want to use for my plugin. So let's say that I want to have a gray warm of 50 on my plugin. And then I go from this space to, now I need to think about how big I want my plugin to be. And in this case, I think that the border radius will be extra large. But let's think about how big I want the plugin to be. Well, I don't know yet, so I will not use the design system yet. I want to first verify that this approach holds water. So let's say that the thing is going to be 400 by 200. Yeah, I think that this is going to work. It looks like one of these wells. And it has rounded corners and everything, so when Reaper catches up, which means never, Reaper is never going to do that. But when Reaper catches up with reality and brings rounded corners to everything, as they should, because it looks a lot better, then we'll be in fashion. Yeah, but that's never gonna happen. But I think that the space around the thing doesn't need to be that wide. It can be just 2. Oh, in fact, it could be 0. I could be touching the corners. No, that's a silly idea. No. Let's get back to this. And then the plugin just blends into the background and we'll write stuff on top of the background. That's what we're going to do. So what's up here? We have to write some numbers below. So let's write some numbers below. And let's pick a color for the number. And the Reaper gray is a true gray, but let's go with warm gray. I just think it looks nicer. Let's go with 700 for this. And then let's position JSFX X at some point and position JSFX Y at some point. And let's JSFX draw a string, which will be like 500. And let's position the X at like 100 and the Y at like 100. So this is what it looks like. And it is reasonable. But I guess this is a good opportunity for us to think about font choices, font sizes, and all that fun font stuff. So let's look again at the options we have to select fonts. We already know that we can only do Arial or whatever is their monospaced font. And I don't really like how I cannot pass coordinates to draw a string, but I'm not compelled to write a wrapper. I could just write an auxiliary function that takes the coordinates, then the string to draw. I think I'm just unless there is really a really compelling reason, like when you want to have a filled in rounded rectangle. Unless you are in one of those situations, I'm not going to overwrite the Reaper way of doing things. At least not for now. I don't want to like recreate the whole JSFX library. Okay, so let's look at this set font situation. Can select a font and optionally configure it. IDX 0 for the default bitmapped font. No configuration is possible for this font. IDX 1 to 16 for a configurable font. Specify font face such as Arial, SZ of, I guess that's size of 8 to 100, and optionally specify flags, which is a multi-byte character which can include italics, underline, or bold. These flags may or may not be supported depending on the font and OS. After calling JSFX set font, text height may be updated to reflect the new average line height. It seems like we don't have any control over line height. That's fair. I think we don't have any control in Reaper over the line height, because in Reaper, I don't think you can draw strings that wrap anyway, right? You only have the draw string function. Where is it? Draw str. Yeah, this function allows you to center stuff and justify. Yeah, and you can even say that the text is going to overflow a certain box, but you have no way of saying these are the dimensions of my box and flow the text in here automatically for me. So that's just not something that Reaper knows how to do. So in that scenario, I think that line height is okay to not be configurable, because if we need to wrap text, we'll need to compute the coordinates for the next line ourselves, and then in that position, when we are there, we can just get this line height that comes from the font, multiply it by a constant like 1.5, and that's going to be our line height. So it will be a lot of manual work, but luckily in JSFX, I don't think we'll need to have a lot of text on the page like that. Not for the effects that I am planning on writing anyway. So I like the aesthetics of this font, and it seems like everyone else is just using Arial, and I don't know if I like Arial. It's just a poor man's version of Helvetica, and you have to use Arial because on Windows you not have Helvetica, right? So, oh, it seems like there is some retina situation that we can apply. What is that about? When we set font. What are the flags? Oh, it's not the flags, it's the size. They are picking the size. So if you are in a Retina display, you double the size. That's what's up. So if you are in this gain reduction scope plugin, comes with REAPER. If you are in a Retina display, then this is greater than 1, and you use Arial. Otherwise, you use the bitmap font. That's a fun choice, right? You only get Arial if you have a display with more resolution. Okay, I'll take it. Let's see what is up with chat. Arya is here. Hello, Arya. Hope I'm not super late, had a student, that's fine. REAPER proper doesn't wrap, but I found something in the forums that lets you wrap text inside a box. Yeah, I'm not surprised that this exists. In fact, I remember in the JSFX library that Gerard created, I think that there is a component like that, but I don't really see me using that component too much, so I'll not worry about it for now. Yeah, and it even takes resizing into account. That's great. I don't think I'm going to have too much of this. Maybe in the future I will have something like if you leave your cursor on top of something, then a tooltip will pop up. And for that, we probably want to wrap text. But we'll see when we get there. For now, what's up with this Retina variable? I have a Retina display and it's not... okay, so you have to set it on initialization. Oh, okay, so let's see what that is going to do to us. Okay, so when you have the Retina on, Bobs is here. Hello, Bobs. Just here to scratch my head a bit. Yeah, we are not doing anything too fancy today. I am not on the top of my game today. I couldn't even work on my day job all the hours I was expecting. I'm just like, ugh. So I'm just doing the lazy, simple kind of stuff. But yeah, the Retina stuff is cool, but then we have to double everything, right? So maybe we could, in the design system, we could already take that into account. Yeah, can I like force you into having to use Retina? Because I really think that these rounded corners could be crisper. So in the library, I have an init section. That's where I define all my variables and functions and everything. If I define it there, is it going to force the user of the library into Retina? Yes, it will. So I can force the user of the library into Retina. Now, is it something that is desirable? I don't know. If I don't force the user into, and by the user, I mean the developer who is using my library. So if I don't force that person into Retina, can I have control over Retina? In other words, let's find all the places where I have spacing stuff. And then let's multiply by Retina. So if I don't declare the variable, but I use the variable, is it going to be 1 by default, 0 by default? What's going to happen? Yeah, it's going to go away. It's going to be 0 by default if I don't set it. So I think that the only way to make this work is to force our users into using Retina. But when I do this, is it going to be available right away when I define the spacing stuff? No, it will not be available, right? Isn't that what just happened? Did the rectangle with rounded corners change in size? It did not change in size. So another way of testing this is to have a debug variable that is that, and if it's 1, then it's bad news. It's bad news. And if we put this variable in another block of code instead of the init block, if we put it on the JSFX block, then it's 2. So that's good news. But what happens if we put these variables that we have, instead of putting them in the init block, but if we put them in the JSFX block in the library, okay, so in that situation, Reaper does not even find some of the functions. But what if we take the functions and we let the functions be in the init block, but the variables are in the JSFX block? Because in the functions, we have access to the retina variable, I suppose. It only makes sense, right? To have access to them. Because by the time that the function is going to execute, the variable already exists, or the variable has already been updated. It's only the plain variables that are a concern. So debug is the number 2, but I forget even what we were doing. So yeah, in the JSFX block, so our variables are in the JSFX block, but the variables are not available. That's why, yeah, when I use space 4 and 8 and 16, it's not available. It's not there. That's why we don't see the rectangle anymore. So this is a weird situation. Let me revert everything. This was just an experiment. Forties and stuff is here. Hey, I meant to talk to you about something. I remember you asked me, was it you who asked me to like translate an effect written in C++ or in C by Chris, the Air Windows person, translate that to JSFX? And I remember that you gave me that idea, and I was like, in the stream, I was like, no, forget about it. And then I actually looked into the code and I looked into the effects, and now I am interested, so I want to do that. It's on my big list of things to do in Reaper, but it's there. Just wanted to say, what are your favorites? I took note of the ones you mentioned in chat. I forget what they are, but I have in my notes. But what are your favorites? And did you look at the code yourself? Do you know more or less which would be the easiest to try to understand and make sense of things and translate to JSFX? It could be fun. And in fact, I think that one of the things missing from the Air Windows plugins, of course, is more calibrated controls and a better user interface to help you understand what the plugins are doing. So maybe we can combine forces. I'm interested in doing graphical user interfaces and stuff, and thinking about usability and everything. So maybe if we combine forces, something great could happen. So yeah, get in touch and let me know about these ideas. Okay, so I see a couple solutions to this retina situation. One solution that I can think of is I can make all these variables actually be functions. And if they are functions, then the retina variable will be set. Now, let me prove my hypothesis first. Let's create a retina function that will get this variable. And if it's equal to 0, then I say that it's 1. Otherwise, okay, so what am I doing here? I'm saying if JSFX retina is equal to 0, then it means that you did not opt into retina. You did not, in the init block, set retina to 1. So I say that you are not in retina mode. Otherwise, I give you the retina variable. So the reason why I have this as a function is that I think that then it gives you control. If you want to opt into retina, you can. And if you don't want to, you can not do that if you want, which is good. As a developer, you have more options. It's less heavy-handed on our part to do it this way. Let's prove that this even makes sense and works. Now, what I expect here to see here is the number 1 right now, because in my init block, I did not set this to 1. So this should be by default 0, and then I should get 1 out of this. So let's run the plugin and see if debug is the number 1. Debug is the number 1. Now, as a user of the library, I can say I want to support retina. So I define an init block. I set this to 1, and then debug is the number 2. So now the user of the library has control over this. Cool stuff. But also, everywhere where we have some spacing, we could have a function instead. And this function could multiply by this. Yeah, I guess they are orthogonal problems. I could also, so one problem is giving the user the option to opt into retina or not. So that's one option. And then the problem of getting the retina situation in all day spaces for everything. So I can give you the option to opt into retina, or I cannot give you the option. And if you stay in my design system the whole time, you say JFX X retina equals 1, and you just get retina for free because I will be multiplying everything for you. I will even resize the fonts, which is something that we'll have to do too. So I can give you all the retina kind of for free. So I will say that no, you don't opt into retina. You are forced into retina by me, the developer of this library. You're just forced into it. And that's the way it's gonna go. But the issue remains. When I get to my spacing here, this variable is still the number 1. It has not been updated by REAPER yet, so I cannot just multiply here. They are not fixed values. I will have to make them into functions, and I will have to multiply by this variable. So let's see what we have. Yeah, I can reverse this. And yeah, I'll just force people into supporting retina. Even if you don't have a retina display and you're using my library, you have developed a plugin that does retina and you don't have to configure anything, which is, I think, is a good trade-off. But if you have like images that you bleed, then you have to be aware of the retina and you have to prepare the images accordingly. But that's up to you. I haven't gotten in touch with Justin yet, but I'm guessing he'd be great for this. Yes. And Bobs is saying that sounds like opening Pandora box for user. No, what exactly? Giving the user the option or not giving the user the option? I mean, one of the things that I like about libraries is when they have opinions, good, well thought opinions. And this is an opinion. It may not be good, it may not be well thought, but it's an opinion. So I'm being opinionated in terms of retina support. And if I want plugins to look good, they better support retina. So yeah, or I could go with that other approach with the L_retina function, and then I can let the person developing the plugin to choose whether or not to adopt retina. Okay, let's convert all of these into functions. I wonder if I should do this like in one pass or if I should do this. I think I know how to do this in one pass. I think it will be fun. So let's say that this is function, and then we can go to the end of that, and then we replace the equal sign with parentheses, and then we say JSFX X retina times that, and then I go to the end of the line, and I will do it like this. And I think that this looks acceptable. So now, of course, when I am using the space in all these situations, I need to call them as functions. And here we are. Our rectangle is now the same size as before, but it is crisper. It is so much crisper that I think I can give myself a border radius that is wider. Oh, I need to do the same transformation with the border radius. That's what's going on. The border radius is now half the size. Okay, so Bobs, you seem to like this decision of being opinionated, not giving the user, the developers, the option. Let's just support Retina. Let's live with that. So same situation here with the border radius. Let's turn them into functions. Just like that. And then over here, we use it as a function. That will make the rounded corners more round. And they are more round. And now they look about the roundness that I was hoping for, and they are not as blocky. Awesome. Awesome stuff. Excellent. So we have a good background, we have the rectangle, and where did my word go? I think I reverted that, didn't I? GFX draw str of 500 and GFX x of 100, GFX y of 100, and let's use L color gray warm of 200 for this guy. And where is it? Where is it? Where is this? Did I draw it on top of... No, if it was on top of the other text of the rectangle, it would be on top, not below. So that's not that. It's not complaining about the function calls, so that's not the issue either. I did not make a mistake in that part. Do you see a problem, you all who are watching this? I meant to say 700. There you go. It was there the whole time, wasn't it? When it was 200. No, it blends with the background. But it's there. Yeah, I meant to say 700. So now we have text that is too small because of Retina. So let's double the size. Well, I think this is a perfect opportunity for us to bring in the font size and line height stuff from the design system. So let's keep this for now. as demonstration, and let's go to our design system. Where is it? I think I lost the page. Yes, I think I did. No, it's here. I did not lose the page. So we have border width, border radius, outline. No, the font stuff is going to be above. Oh, another thing we can bring real quick is the widths. So that's fun stuff. And that comes even before space. And this is going to be L underscore. And we are going for better names here. So this is extra small, small, medium, large. And then let's look for all occurrences of XL. And we'll say extra large. And on the other one where we had extra large, I think it was like extra large 2 and not 2 extra large, if you know what I mean. Yes, it was extra large 2. So let's do the same with this section. And let's find all the columns, replace them with, oh, plot twist. They have to be functions because of the retina stuff. Now, naturally, we need to pass this code through our helper up top, this little helper. To convert the ramps. And also, I made a mistake in all of them. I did not put the spaces where I wanted the spaces to be. But I fixed that. And there is this one, which is 65 characters. Now, this is a measurement unit that does not exist in JSFX, and we'll have to approximate. I'm using that on my website. Oh, not local. On my website, this is the width of this div is 65 characters. Roughly. Of course, it depends on the font, but it's 546. So we're going to go with 546. And we're going to say that this is the width of prose. Of course, this makes sense if you have long form text, which is not something that we will have, but I think it makes sense to have this option for the user. So width, done. And this I probably don't want to commit, so I will revert. Let's see what we have. Just this lovely little small section here. And then we can start to use this. Well, I cannot use a function here, I don't think. I don't think that Reaper will allow me to do this, but let's try. It did not complain. That is interesting. Let's add the plugin from scratch. And I think it did it. I think it gave me the size based on the function. Let's make something outrageous to prove the point. So this is the width large. So how about we ask for a space of like 42, which I think is like, first of all, I think it exists in the design system. Does it? No. So then it's 40, yes. Space of 40. So that exists. And I don't know how to make this. Okay, so it is a size. So I think it's working. Now let's make it slightly bigger. Like 48. Add the plugin again. And no, it seems to be the same size. Okay, that's what I thought. So it's not even, is it going to complain if I have a function that doesn't exist over here? It's just ignoring that code, saying, yep, I don't understand that. Fuck you. Okay, yeah, so we cannot use function calls here. That's fine. We'll just, for this special case, just this special case, we'll resort to copying and pasting values from here. So let's say that we want the screen to be just extra large. Oh, fuck, but this is going to respect Retina or not? Oh, man. I'm not too happy. So if that is 600 wide, I guess we can go with something like 288 height. Let me catch up with chat. Nope, there is a lot going on. Leandro, I would like to suggest a change in JSFX that separates multi-track recordings from OBS using FFmpeg. Okay, I noticed that the takes that are being created have no names, and I have to name them myself. Can you make it so they have automatically get a name, like when you use Reaper native, explode multi-channel, blah, blah, blah? You could make it like file name. Yeah, well, I loved it when I said, fuck you. I'm glad you liked it. But it is, what I did is, I think that the item names, an item doesn't have a name. A take has a name, right? Let's go back to Reaper. Create an item. Go to the properties. So yeah, takes have names, and the takes have been named after, in fact, I was modeling the thing after the Reaper thing, so I think that should already be the case. Yeah, can you give me like an example, maybe? Can you like create a small file that has multiple tracks and then explode and then send me the Reaper project, and then I can see it can be a small file, but if you can send me like a zip of a project, and then I will look into this, because as far as I remember, when I was developing this, I was taking care of this. I was making sure that the tracks would be named exactly like the Reaper action. Oh, and Bo is saying that I should be careful with fuck yous because YouTube might get angry. Oh, that's too bad. I thought that if I don't say, oh, thanks Fots for doing that. If I don't say that my stream is for kids, I was good to go in terms of curse words, but yeah, whatever. I'll keep it family friendly, more or less. Okay, so now I made it so that the values, okay, so this is bigger, which means that now it picked up the value from this. And I cannot use functions in this context. So I copy and paste it. And I think that this is taking in account the retina. This is being computed before the retina doubling of stuff. But I don't know. That may be a problem. We'll see. Okay, what's next? Well, why was I creating the sizes? Oh, that is done. That is done. And notions like letter spacing doesn't even exist. Oh, I was thinking about fonts. Yes, fonts, this size. So why did I take a detour for this? Just because it was on the way, I guess. Let's do font sizes. And in terms of font family, I could include that in the design system, couldn't I? I mean, I don't think I will use it myself, but it doesn't hurt to have it. So I will have it. And then for font family, I will have sans serif. And I will have monospace, but I will not have serif because I don't know of any serif font that is going to be installed on every operating system for absolutely sure. So I will only have Arial and the default font. So I'm not really sure how this works. Do I need to like set font when I start and then I don't need to have this over and over? I don't really know. But I'll say that the monospace font is index 0. This is index 1. The font face will be Arial. And then we have the sizes. Oh, damn. To be able to change the size, I will have to create another one of these. And I can only create 16 of them, right? Yeah. That is annoying. And then even if I want something like italics or whatever, I'll have to create more and more of them. That will be annoying. I think I know what I'm gonna do there, but it will be annoying. Man, the guy who invented Arial has to be making some money. Yes, as the lore goes, the person was hired by Microsoft because Microsoft wanted to have Helvetica, but they didn't want to pay for it. So they hired, I think it was Matthew Carter who created Arial. No, it was not. But I think that the story is they wanted to have Helvetica. They didn't want to pay for Helvetica, so they hired some people to like change Helvetica in 2 or 3 places, and they called it Arial, and that was that. And of course, they made a lot of money because they licensed for Microsoft, for Apple, and everyone else. Yeah, it was created metrically identical to the popular Helvetica, it's just that they broke some characters on purpose so that they would look different. Yeah, Matthew Carter did. Georgia. Georgia is a good looking font. And I think he also did Verdana, right? Verdana font. Verdana Pro. Yeah, that's Matthew Carter. So that one is also probably safe to use in Reaper because it's installed everywhere, but I'm not gonna. The project I'll send you have both mine and your voices. Oh, great. I will record a snippet from your live stream with OBS and record my own voice, so it has 2 tracks. Excellent. That's, in fact, my motivation for having that script as well, so I could record in OBS with multiple tracks. Now, after I developed the thing, I started streaming and not recording videos, so I have never actually used the script myself. They got paid up front from Microsoft, so not a lot of money. Oh no, Microsoft is smart. I love Georgia. Matthew Carter is awesome. Yeah, I digress. Is Charter by him as well? I think that Charter is by Matthew Carter. And Charter is one of my favorite fonts, my favorite system fonts. Yes, it is Matthew Carter too. So Charter is great. Comes with macOS. Great font. Okay, thinking about font sizes and everything. So you are going to be constrained to have at most 16 different variations of font sizes and font families. If you want to configure something, you will have to have at most 16 versions of these things. So at this point, I think that you have to manage this yourself. I cannot really help you with this. Yeah, the font management, the calling set font, something that you're going to have to do yourself, and you will have to keep track of your fonts. The indices, you have to keep track of them. it will be up to you. So the most I can do is I can have this, which is rather silly, but it is what it is. And then for setting the default bitmap, I'll set an index of 0. Okay, so for that one, I don't necessarily need to give an index, but I guess I will say font family mono space index is 0. And then I will give you the index. It's not even the font family index, it's the font index. Just the font index. You set a font and you get an index because it's not just the family, it's the size and the flags. So it is font index of monospace is 0, which is kind of silly, but it will look nice in the code. And I wonder what happens if you just like take index 1 and you keep changing the font face underneath. What is it going to do with that? Is it going to like repaint stuff that it has already painted? It's not going to do that. That is mildly annoying. I think it is the best we can do. So we'll have, I guess, a font indices, and the documentation that I write for this library will have to explain so many edge cases like this thing. But it is what it is. So I'll have the font family sans serif, but I can also have font faces, and these can be functions. They must be functions actually because of Retina. So I'll have font sizes. And some of them are plural, some of them are singular. This is one design system with font indices, font families, font sizes, widths, spaces, plural, border radii. No, I'll go even with that, which is ridiculous. Colors and drawing functions. Okay. Okay, moving on. Font sizes. That's where we are. Font sizes. And line heights too. You have to manage the line height yourself and wrap things yourself, at least for now. But I will give you the sizes that you have to use. Okay, Faris, thanks for emailing me. And it's great that now I have connection with you and we can talk more about the Air Windows stuff if you're still interested. I am, but so font size and then that and that needs to go like this, and that is something that is going to multiply by JSFX X Retina multiplied by that, just like that, except that of course I forgot some parentheses there. Now I'm curious, Bo, you said that YouTube could get angry with me because I am spelling function wrong, but more importantly because I was cursing. What kind of angry are we talking about? Monetization? Because I'm not at that level. I have 700 subscribers. I cannot monetize the channel. And even when I can, I don't think I will, because I will get like $20 and I hate advertisement when I'm watching YouTube. So if I don't enable it and you don't get to see advertisement, that makes me happy. But what kind of angry are we talking about? Like taking me offline? Are they that kind of aggressive? Do you know stories? Okay, paste that there. And then run this. Then we get our sizes in pixels. I find it infuriating that I have to transform everything into a function for the Retina support. And you may be wondering, why do you have font size and line height for everything? Well, because the line height depends on the font size. When you have bigger fonts, you need less spacing between the lines, because the font is already bigger, so your eyes can track the text better. But when you have smaller fonts, you want to increase the line height so that the lines are further apart to help your eyes not like go to the same line twice. Probably that has happened to you in some occasions. So that's why I have both font size and line height. And every time you change the font size, you also have to change the line height accordingly. Next, small and base and large and extra large. Oh no, I just thought of something. Know what I thought? Do you know? We'll have a problem because the bitmap font, it has been bitmapped, so I cannot make it bigger. That's why in the documentation they say no configuration is possible for this font. It's a bitmap. I cannot make it Retina. I cannot make double the amount of bits. So in my effects, if I want to support Retina, and I made the executive decision to support Retina, then I cannot support the monospaced font. The only option you have is Arial, I think. Oh no. And when I was doing things like extra large, how many underscores did I put after the extra large? I put only one in every occasion. I think it should be two, so I'm going to change that. So let's see all occasions where we have underscore 2, for instance, and they need to be underscore 2. Okay. Yes, I am interested. Awesome. Sorry for shouting. I'm just an Air Windows fanboy. Yeah, so am I. I'm learning so much. I don't usually watch these streams when he's streaming, but I watch them later, and yeah, I'm learning a lot. Not 100% sure on the fuck issues. I know Air Windows has gotten problems just by saying bit shift. Which YouTube thinks is a different word. Exactly. He either has to call it the word length game or take a pause between bit and shift. Can you do a % of line height? So when you change the size, the height follows? Well, that's just the thing. It is a percentage. Or no, it's not a percentage in the design system that I copied from Tailwind, but it could be a percentage. The problem is that the percentage changes when you change the line height for the reason I explained. Bigger font needs less space. Yeah, plus he always makes a funny face when he does it. Okay, have you taken a look at Free Sans? It's a good replacement for Arial. Oh, the problem is that we need a font that comes with the system. I cannot ask my users to install a font when they install my repack. And I cannot install fonts on their system. I can install JSFX, I can install REAPER effects, but I cannot install fonts. So I have to depend on the system fonts. And I think that the only system fonts that seems like everyone is using in JSFX is Arial. So that's this story. So I was looking at places where I have underscore 2. So that I put 2 underscores to separate the word. Because that's what I do in space, for instance, right? Yeah, just a couple more places. Bit shift. Okay, so that is my keyword now. When I am talking about bit shifts, you all know what I'm talking about. So yeah, font size and line height, and you'll have to manage this yourself, and I'll have to write some big old docs explaining this. But I'll not do it now. Okay. Think I like everything I see. Let's see. There is a list for system-safe fonts. Yeah. There is one issue though. Usually when you look at lists of system-safe fonts, they have fallbacks. They have something like, you can use GL Sans if you want. It comes with macOS and it works in iOS as well. So you can use GL Sans. Of course, it does not come with Android and Windows. So you fall back to a different one. And if you look at the systems fonts that I have here in this thing that I borrowed from Tailwind, you can see that it has a list of them. Like this is for Windows, this is for Android, this is for macOS prior to 10.15, I think, and so on and so forth. But in JSFX, we don't have that. We have to pick one font, and that's going to be our font. And we don't even get in JSFX any way to introspect to see in which operating system we are. If we had a way to do that, then we could tell pick a different font for every operating system, but we don't have that. Not in JSFX. In Lua, when writing Reaper scripts, you have access to that information. But in JSFX, you don't. So as far as I understand, going with Arial is the only safe choice. I may be wrong. I wish I'm wrong. Really hope that I'm wrong. Okay, so the monospace font goes because we are supporting Retina, so you cannot rely on the bitmapped font. Bit shift. Let's see. Oh my god, my new favorite video game was released today. It's called The Signal State. It's a puzzle game with a modular synth. It's like VCV Rack. Oh, I am trying not to install VCV Rack because I know I will lose so much time playing with it. Turned into a post-apocalyptic game. Just recently discovered EL2. So, Lanterntronics, Aaron. Hello, Aaron. Great to have you here. Just recently discovered EL2. What an amazingly powerful scripting language. It is. I looked into other things and there's nothing like EL2. It's so powerful, and that's why I think it deserves better looking stuff. Oh, bit shift. We need typefaces. As long as it translates well, it's not a big deal. Yeah, I mean, I don't like the look of it, of Arial. I think it's a poor man's version of Helvetica, but it is what it is. It's the only option. We have to work with constraints. That's what great design is all about. It's working with constraints and making the best of them. So when we want to write something to the screen, we are forced into setting a different font. In fact, if we are forced into setting a different font, why don't I just default that for you as the designer of the library, so you don't have to worry about it until you care? So I'll have index 1, and that will be like, I guess now I will have the font indices, but this is a font index of, I don't know, base, I'll call it that. And then in your code, you will have to manage these indices, but if you want to go back to the default one, it comes with a name, which is nice. And then for the font size, well, I guess it needs to go below, right? So that I can pick the, let's go with small. I think that small will be fine. Let's see. Font size small. 14 pixels is probably okay. And then for the flags are italics, bold, underline. I don't think we need any of them. Are there more flags? Italics, underline, and bold. Yeah. Look at that, it didn't work. Oh man, I know why it didn't work. Because when I call the function at this position, the retina variable has not settled yet. I think I have a solution for this, but I'm not sure I like it. The solution for this is probably, I think that this is not going to be the only situation in which I do this, where I have something that needs to be initialized. So I think that I will say that in your JSFX block, you have to initialize my library, and I will stuff everything that we need to do in this initialize block. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure that I love this, but I think we'll need to like allocate some memory for some other things that I have in mind. So if I am right about this prediction, then I think that this will make sense. And with that, actually, we can put the font indices above everything, which makes more sense, right? You see the indices first, and then you're like, what is that about? And then you'll learn about the font families and font sizes. So when I do that and refresh, then it's Arial, and I think it's a reasonable size. Again, I am designing with a display huge in front of me because of this stream. So I think that this font size will work well. But, okay. So it seems like we have some typography fans here. Arial is the Hugo. Okay, I get it. I'm having nightmares by the Arial and Times New Roman I see all around me in papers and signs in office visits. You know what? More than Arial and Times, what followed me my whole graduate student career is Computer Modern, which is the LaTeX font. If you don't specify a font, you get this one. And it looks good, it's nice, but man, do you get tired of it? Or even Calibri. So you're working with people who use Word instead of LaTeX, so I guess good for you. Calibri and Cambria were Microsoft's attempt of being sophisticated. I remember a teacher who required us to use Cambria, but it was a Vista font, and we had Windows XP. Okay, you're dating yourself. So I begged him to use Tahoma, except, okay, forcing pixels. Is that based on the user font defaults? Never mind, I asked at the top of my head, okay. Fun stuff. Okay, so we have something that draws on the screen. We have font sizes. We initialize stuff at the end. Isn't that fun? The initialized stuff comes at the end. But it has to, because there is this limitation in JSFX where if you want to call a function, it has to be defined before you. You can only call functions that have been defined above. You cannot call functions that have been defined below. You know what? I read this in the documentation, but I never tested, and it's worth testing. And I wonder if I can initialize in the init block. Maybe I don't have to do it here. So let's test both of these ideas. In the init block, can I call L initialize? Has the retina variable settled at this point? I don't think it has. Yeah, it becomes small again. So no, I have to initialize in the JSFX block. Second idea, can I put the initialize stuff at the beginning, which makes a lot more sense intuitively, but is it something that I can do? I don't think I can. The documentation says that I cannot. Yeah. What is the error message? Undefined. It just says that it's undefined. It cannot find the function, so it says it's undefined. All right. Okay. The docs are right. Let's proceed. So let's position this label under the box that it labels. For that, we'll do a bit of arithmetic. So if we have let's say that we have a base. So let's say that we have, okay, I'm conceptualizing this interface like this. Let's say that we have a box around this thing, which is like what you would implement in HTML. You have a box around this thing, and then you're going to have a bunch of these boxes. So in this box, I will say that, oh, and maybe the background color could be part of the initialization, and then I have an opinion in the color as well. Yep. See, now that I have, so that's the great thing about when you find a good abstraction. Because sometimes you abstract things, like you define functions too early, and you just think that you're going to have an initialization thing, and then you end up not using it. And that's a bad abstraction. But the sign that you have a good abstraction is when it sparks new ideas, like what just happened. So if I have the initialized thing, I can set a default background color for you. And then it's less stuff that you have to write yourself. And of course, more and more opinions. And I have to explain this actually. I think of the JSFX UI library that Geraint created. I think of this as like Bootstrap. It has a lot of components ready-made, and it has a lot of opinions on many, many things. And as far as I understand, it's not something that you can quickly change this blue into a green, or for instance. You may be able to do that, but in general, you don't have as much control over the library. So I think of this as like Bootstrap. Like, it's a bunch of components, and if you look into the docs, yes, there are ways to customize, and there are ways for you to just use helpers and utility classes. And I'm now speaking to those of you who are interested in JSFX and who know web development, which may not be the biggest intersection, but I am in this intersection. So I think of this library like Bootstrap. Bunch of components, bit of customization, but all your plugins will sort of end up looking similar. I am more in the Tailwind territory. I want to give you the building blocks, and I want to give you flexibility, and I want to be able to build plugins that look nothing like my plugins. But I think it makes sense to have sort of a reset, which is something that Tailwind has. It calls that the pre-flight. And Bootstrap has something similar. It is called the Bootstrap Reboot. So in both situations, both in Bootstrap as well as in Tailwind, they have an opinionated set of base styles. And in the case of Tailwind and Bootstrap, they are mostly resetting the browser default styles so that it becomes easier for you to bring your own styles. In my case, I am doing sort of a similar thing here. I want to say I'm like resetting the background color to a background color that is more pleasant. So if you don't care about the background color, I think that you're going to get one that matches the rest of Reaper better. But if you care about the background color, I give you the tools to change the background color, the function that you can call. Now, there is a debate of whether I should be doing this because it's too opinionated and because it is going to be wasteful. If you want to change the background color, you're going to call this function again, and it's going to be called twice on every frame. But I'm not too worried about performance to begin with. I think it will be fine. It's only called 30 times a second anyway. We can cross that bridge when we get there. And I think that having this kind of opinion is advantageous. So, yeah, there is that. And I think I'm landing on a good abstraction here because it's doing some stuff for me now. It's already pulling its weight. Okay, let's see. What is up with chat? You're more than welcome to use that. Comic Sans. It's a misunderstood font. It's not a bad font. It has been used in contexts that it wasn't designed for. So, yeah, I have nothing against Comic Sans. Remember when I told you about that repack thing that implemented Dear IM? That's for implementing sophisticated user interfaces for Reaper scripts, not for JSFX, unfortunately. You had the option of changing colors, but I don't remember for what reason. Sorry for being so vague. Yeah, I don't know exactly what you're talking about here, but Oh, okay. That thing. I don't think I even know about this, but yeah, I know about Dear immediate mode graphical user interface, and that's a way of writing REAPER scripts, not JSFX, and it is backed by a C++ library that has been wrapped and distributed with Repack. It comes with support for Lua, so you can write Lua and have great looking graphical user interfaces, but they are opinionated. They come with pre-made components, and you sort of use what's there. It's like Bootstrap, I suppose. Yeah. Okay, so what do we have here? No changes. So I was thinking about the structure of this page. It looks like one block here, and I don't think that the framework is in charge of like having grid stuff, because to properly abstract the grid here, it would be great if I had something like a flexbox or a grid situation. And then it would become easier for me to draw the grid. But the problem is, to make that happen in a way that makes sense, I would either have to take over the whole drawing situation in a similar fashion to this, and at that point you should be using that library, I think. Oh, and I guess it can be styled easily because I can see different themes. Yeah, great stuff. This library is great. But either I take charge of drawing the thing for you, or I would need some features that JSFX just doesn't have as a language. I would need to like be able to pass functions around as arguments. So I could maybe pass a function that is drawing the little box, and then I would pass that function to another function that does the layout and the grid for me, but I don't know. I guess alternatively, I could have an auxiliary function that just calculates the coordinates of the beginnings of the block. So maybe we'll extract that. But to begin with, I think that we'll have something that is lower level. It's like Tailwind. It's just building blocks. But let's get to this. Let's put this 500 below the other thing. So I have initialize, and then I will say that this is like, I'll have a box X coordinate, and I'll have a box Y coordinate, and the box X is going to be this, and the box Y is going to be that. So why am I assigning this to a variable? Well, because the box X and Y are going to change as I draw boxes further down. And then the rectangle, I want to go flush on the top left of the box. And then the text, I want to go well, here is an idea. I want the box palette. Is that how you write palette? I can never seem to write or say this word correctly. Palette? 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 No. So let's say that this is the palette box, which is this box here. And let's say that it has a width and a height. Why am I doing this? Because I'm going to use it below, right? I'm extracting this into variables because I'm going to use the variables below. And you can see that I'm starting to follow this pattern, this way of naming things. I think what I'm using is called BEM in CSS world. Don't quote me on this. But I just like this convention where there's like an object, which is this box. And then there is another object, which is the palette box. And then there will be... Oh, so maybe I should have 2 underscores between the property, right? Between that and the property. Yeah, let's have that. We are trying to establish coding patterns or establish a coding style guide. Yeah, I think I prefer that. Of course, I am distributing my underscores very generously, but I think that is for the better. I think it makes things easier to read. At least that's my hope. And of course, this should be named height. And then we go to box x1 and y, width and height. And then over here, I want to get the box x. And I want to get the box y. But I will add the box height, the palette box height. And I will add some spacing between the two, which will be, let's say that it will be 2. Will be a space of 2. There you have it. Now, let me catch up with what's going on. People are teaching me how to say the word. You are too kind. Did I send you the project to the correct email address? Can you please check? My inbox flashed on the stream. That is never fun. Yes, you sent to the right address. I will check it later. Thanks. Google Translate says palette as palette. Okay. I do wish EL2 had a more conventional array type. Having one giant memory chunk with A being the same as feels like programming an assembly language. True, and in my library I have a way, I'm planning on having a way to allocate memory in a more sane manner. So we'll have structures like array, buffer, circular buffer, structs. I think that's it. That's what I remember. Fati says, I say palette like you because I know a bit of French. Oui, there you go. Yeah, something like a malloc. But it will be simpler because I don't think I want to let you allocate and deallocate memory while processing the audio. So I'll have something that only works in the init block. You have to allocate optimistically or pessimistically, I guess. Yes, you'll have to allocate pessimistically and allocate all the memory you want. Alternatively, you can do stuff on the slider block, but then automation may not work if you are not really careful. But it is the nature of the game, right? We are processing audio in real time, so allocating stuff in the audio processing block sounds like a bad idea to begin with. So I'm not too worried about this constraint, but we'll get there. We'll get there. Trust me, we'll be working on this for a while. So we put the thing in the right place, but I'm not 100% satisfied. I think there are some options of the string draw that we can leverage, because I want the text to be centered. Since I don't have two things, I don't have this, I only have one. So I will center it in the box. And I think I have an easy way of doing that. Just have to set some flags. And these flags are completely ridiculous. So I'm going to have something in my library that will abstract that. So remember how I said that I don't want to recreate what Reaper already has? That is true. But I think that this part of the API is weird and silly, so I will fix that part of the API. So let's see. We have font families, font sizes, width. Oh, right before that, we'll have a section for text alignment. And what we are going to do now is very apropos for what we were talking. I will now have an enum, which is another thing that I want to have. So text align or text alignments, because we're going with plural. And text align is what you do in CSS, right? So I'm just going to follow that. When you have a paragraph like this, or maybe a paragraph like this, you can say text align center. See? So that's what we're going for. So text align center. Or, oh, this is horizontally. Okay. And then there is another one for vertically. Okay, what's going on? We have horizontal and vertical. So I'll say horizontal center. And then text align horizontal right. And then these two will be vertical. This will be center, and this will be... You know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to say that this is the right. I'll say that this is the end, because then they match. And it also matches what people are doing in CSS these days, which is to have more support for right to left and top to bottom for languages that have that sort of order. So they're transitioning from saying things like margin right, and they're going to say margin end. And that is your margin right in languages like English, but it's margin left in languages like Arabic. So there is that. And then 256, ignore right bottom. So I think I can come up with a better name for this, which is like overflow hidden, right? Oh, I'll just say that this is overflow. Overflow visible? Yeah, I'll say that this is overflow visible. That's what this is. And then I am going to assign some numbers to those things. And what is this number? This is 2 to the power of 0. What is this number? This is 2 to the power of 1. Or maybe I can just go with the documentation, right? They document it this way, so... No shame in using that. Straight from the docs. I'm going about this in the most weird way. Okay. And how do you combine if you want something centered vertically and horizontally? You just or you pipe the things. But I'm not going to come up with something for that. You just or the thing and it will be fine. Oh, but since we have horizontal center and end, how about we also have a start? Now this is a 0, so it's kind of silly. But then you have that as an option, right? And then I guess the vertical start would also be 0. You know what? I think it's silly for me to use start and end because JSFX don't really have that property of respecting right to left languages. So that's kind of selling more than I can deliver. I'll call this left, center, right, top, center, bottom. Okay, I like this. Let me catch up with chat and I'll see if this works. Yeah, that's how standard C plugins are coded anyway. You allocate all the memory in the initialization and then you use that memory. No one wants to malloc and dealloc inside their main processing loop. On another note, how much coding would be required to get a median value from an array? Bo, oh, that's a good question. I first thought you would need to sort this list, but then thought there must be a more clever way. So the median is just the value that sits in the middle of the distribution. I did some Googling and discovered a fast approximate algorithm called the median of medians. That would probably be good enough for a DSP algorithm. I don't know, I guess I would sort the array. I would sort the array and get the middle position, man. That's how I would do it. I'm not that smart. And I mean, whatever you are doing to find the median, if you're not approximating, if you're getting the actual median, whatever you are doing amounts to sorting the array, except that you may not need to literally go and create a sorted array. You may save some memory or some shuffling of the memory in the process. But my first intuition is that you sort of have to sort the array. That's the definition of the median. You have to see what's the guy in the middle. But there you go. That's another thing that could be fun. We could write some basic algorithms, like basic algorithms, for instance, sorting and searching. I don't know if they are going to be super useful, but they are simple algorithms to remember the good old days when I was so young and naive. Okay, so text alignments, that's what I created. And then I'm going to use it. So let's see how you use that. You say the flags that I am interested in are I guess just horizontal center. I did all of that just for number 1. That's what I did. I did a lot of work to get a number 1 going. Oh man. But look at this, it makes sense. I mean, this is too shorthand and I don't like it, but you draw a string and then text align horizontal center. And you look at that and you're like, okay, I know what that is. And if you see a 1, you're like, what does that do? So there you have it. And right and bottom, of course, because if I want to centralize, I need to say with respect to what? So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to say that this is with respect to the this plus that. And I don't need to say a bottom because I'm not vertically aligning anything. Let's check this out. It doesn't work. Still doesn't work. Am I required to do this? Am I required to pass a bottom? In other words, I think I prefer it like this. And if I am required to pass a bottom, I will just try this real quick. Yes, I am required to pass a bottom if I want to centralize, even just vertically. So now let's think about the coordinates and get this right. So in the x-axis, the right is just the palette, the palette box, which is this teal box. But on the vertical axis, I want it to be with respect to my line height. So it's plus, what is it? Well, I'm using the small font size by default. So I just go grab that. And here we are already using line height for something. And there it is. I think that the spacing may be too much, so I can come to the box height. No, not the box height, the padding between the two, which is this. Now that looks better. And I think I have a box. You all, I think I have a box. Yeah, let's review this code. So from the user of the library's perspective, you have to know about this. So I start documenting the things that I need to document. I just take notes. Document. Dimensions. For the @JSFX block can't use auxiliary. I can't use functions. I need to document that. And then you must call initialize. There is that. And then what do we have going on? This is just the size of our box. Then this is the dimensions of the box. And maybe there is maybe not something that I will document. Maybe I will document this, but what I'm thinking about is maybe I want to have a section in the beginning that is all the spacing of everything. No, I think it makes sense to have the spacing as they come. So the palette box width, and that's because of the principle of locality, right? If I move this around, it will move around with its width and height. And if I have a section in the beginning with width and height, then I lose that property. So locality is always a good thing, I think. So here I have the width and height of the box. I switch colors. I fill the box from the top left of the parent with the width and height and the border radius. And then I switch to a different color, and then I switch to the left in this position, and then I start drawing the text. I center, I add the width of that, and some line height small. Okay. I also need to document how to manage different font sizes and styles. Underscore is a text decoration. It's not really a style, but bold and italics are styles. And I'll call them decoration. There you go. I mean, I'm glad that we don't have to set up different fonts for different colors. That would be a nightmare. If we have a limited palette of colors, that would be a nightmare. But a limited palette of sizes and styles is completely acceptable, especially because we only have like so many sizes that will make sense for a plugin, and bold and italics. So that's fine. And we can only use Arial anyway. So maybe, let's take note of this. Maybe in this font family situation, which is sort of addressed, when we sort of addressed font size and line height as well, but maybe we should have a fixed palette of font configurations. So I will decide for you that you don't have all these sizes to pick from. I will decide on, I guess I have 16 options. So let's say that italics on sans serif fonts don't look good. So I'll just go with normal or bold. And then I give you 8 options of which 8 sizes is good enough. Yeah. Oh, but it goes from 0 to 15, right? No, it goes from 1 to 16. So I have 16 options that I can actually use. And that means that 8 sizes, bold, or not. And that's it. Those are the fonts you get. Always Arial. I should document why always Arial. And that is because of Retina plus operating system font support. So that's a strong design decision that we need to document very carefully. Oh, and I also want to document a workaround. Render every text in the interface as images. Yeah, I mean, if we are working with a constraint system, we need to work with the constraints. And that's the workaround. Okay, I think that's good for now. I'm going to catch up with what chat is saying, and I'm going to wrap up. So what are you all saying? Lots of stuff. Beziers and include. Oh, so those are just ideas for things we could do, like basic algorithms. Yeah, sure. We can draw Béziers. Here's the library. So basic algorithms, Bézier. And you said the hyperbolic tangent, but I would just say that we'll have all hyperbolic trigonometric functions. Because why stop there? We used another one. We used the hyperbolic sine in our when we implemented the RBJ filters, right? Good old days, yes. We also found something called quick select. Look it up on Wikipedia. Turns out, on average, you can do better than n log n of sorting. Oh, that code is beyond all of us, I think. I checked in for a few minutes. Hey, Jim, I'm still learned something. I'm glad to hear that. That makes me very happy. I am a little bit under the weather, so that makes me very happy. Brightens my day. I'm gonna need to get my head back into CSS after about 8 years. I didn't know about that start and end thing. Yeah, it's very new. I don't think it's even a standard yet, but they are working towards that. This year it's with control with mouse. Oh, okay. So initially I am not gonna, personally, I don't think I have a lot of uses for fancier dragging and dropping stuff. So I'm going to begin with, to make the thing manageable, I will start with just outputs, things that you can do with the output. So drawing control curves and drawing gain reduction over time, that sort of thing. But then later, I think that it would be nice to have knobs that you can customize because they take less space than sliders. And we could have some things that you can click and drag, and that could be fun. Oh, thanks. You are too nice, Aaron. I'm going to try some image filtering things with audio. The median algorithm highs in a very specific... is that where the whole average thing came from, Bo? Maybe it is. In any case, yeah. Let's wrap this up. I see you again tomorrow. At the same time, we are going to continue working on this library, and maybe, just maybe, we'll be able to put more of these on the page. I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to put more of them on the page, maybe even all 10 of them. But then it will get interesting because I don't want to just have one of these. I want to have all of them. So I will write a program that will generate JSFX code that will have all of these, because there is no way for me to automate this in the language itself. For that, I would need to be able to construct function calls. And the function calls are not dynamic. I cannot construct them. I have to literally have them in the text of the code. So I think that the only way out of this is to write a program that will generate a bunch of JSFX, similar to the program we wrote to generate this part of the code base, right? I mean, the library is already 1,500,000 lines. 1,500,000, isn't that something? 1,500 lines long, and we didn't write a lot of code. We spent like 2 to 3 hours on this. So yeah, we're going to write some code that generates code, meta-programming, lots of fun stuff. And I have to remember to do this at the end of every stream so I don't end up like tweaking my Reaper configuration and then losing our project. So I'm going to do in the stream, just so I don't forget it, is I'm going to drop this into the effects folder in my repack thing. And that way I don't really have the index file, so it will not be in repack, but at least it will be in GitHub if you want to be a very early adopter of the library. So to make that work, I have to go back into my Reaper directory. And that one is where my repack stuff comes from. And then I will take my library stuff, and that's what I will commit and push. So it's in GitHub now. You can go there and you'll see this. Last words from the chat. I'm thinking it could work well with audio, particularly in reverse. We would cue bass and highlight the highs. I have ring the bell. Thank you. Thank you all for being here and chatting with me and supporting me by being here, by ringing the bell. You know what to do. And the whole average algorithm is a different beat. It works just as I expected. Now I just want to include it in an RBJQ. I can't wait to see the cool stuff that people do with this. You're planting an amazing seed. I sure hope so. And I am very glad to be with you all today. It means a lot to me. So thanks for being here. Thanks for supporting me in all the different ways that you do, like PayPal, Patreon, just by being here, sending me code, sending me Reaper projects with bugs for me to fix, all that fun stuff. Yeah. I see you all tomorrow. And my keyboard shortcuts are not working great, so I'm going to click on the button to say goodbye. Yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.